Next, I believe these are the logos, so you can recognize them. Make sure you keep an eye on. Basti, the next slide, I believe we're ready to go to our first Fireside Chat of the day. Moderating this session is our very own Ventures Director for Plug and Play. Ladies and gentlemen, help me receive on stage, Theodora. There we go.
I really love the energy in the room, and I'm very excited today to be guiding you through the Fireside Chat at a time when we are so very much aware of the transformational impact that generative AI will have in our jobs, in our work, and in our industry. Please help me welcome on stage Ingo Ramezo, Managing Director at Bosch Ventures. Ingo has been with Bosch Ventures for more than 9 years now, and in the past he had several other stations at Bosch Group. Next, please help me welcome on stage Ian Hisary. He's Vice President Strategy and Communications at Aleph Alpha. He has an education from MIT and has previously co-wrote a book together with the co-founder of Palantir. Thank you so much for doing it. Today we want to talk about the biggest AI funding round in Europe. We want to talk about the unique tech of Aleph Alpha and the use cases it enables in the industry. And we also want to touch upon the importance of building an AI ecosystem, or as we like to call it at Plug and Play, an AI center of excellence here in Europe. Let's start maybe with the funding round. Late last year, Aleph Alpha has really made history with a very large Series B funding that was co-led by Bosch Ventures, SAP, Schwarz Group, and other players. How did you make it happen?
Well, I didn't. I wasn't with Aleph Alpha at that time, but I'm sure you can say more about that.
So, yeah, sure. This is a relatively large round, announced with 500 million. However, Gen AI is a large topic. Gen AI is everywhere. And especially in the industry segments, it was Bosch active. You will find Gen AI in each and every vertical, in each division, in each region. And this is so much different to all the other topics we had before, that a funding round of 500 million is maybe not too large, especially if you compare this with large other funding rounds like OpenAI or AI21 and others. But the topic is so important, and also so important for the industrial players investing into the company, that it is okay from my side.
Super. And what do we have in store next for Aleph Alpha? Will more future rounds come?
Yeah, I mean, most definitely. We are working right now. You know, some people claim that it's quite quiet around Aleph Alpha right now. I wouldn't disagree. But the main reason for that is that we're really heavily working on you know, finding the use cases. It's very much exploration right now, not too much exploitation. We're working on that as well. But yeah, I mean, right now is the time to get all the fundamentals right, and there will be a next funding round for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and Bosch Ventures is investing since more than 17 years in many, many startups around the world. We have done far more than 100 investments. And I can tell you, it's always the same. After a financing round, it's before the next round. Yeah, and this is something we will let you know when it's time for that.
Absolutely. We have a bit of catch-up to do when it comes to looking at what's happening in the American landscape. So rooting and hoping everything will go right in the next moments. But also, when it comes to ChatGPT, I think all of us have played around. We have requested it to write short poems or LinkedIn posts, but maybe not everyone is really aware about Aleph Alpha's foundational models. So, Ian, would you like to explain us how you stand apart and how you differentiate?
Yeah, so I guess the main differentiating factor is that we're not targeting the B2C market.
Yeah.
And that from 2019 on. It was very clear early on. You know, we knew that there's a lot of potential in the technology, but there would be no point in competing in that arena So you have to find your differentiating factors very early on. It was B2B, B2G, because the game there is entirely different. You can't just take what you've learned out of a B2C and apply it to B2B, especially not in this when working with a technology. So that's definitely a differentiating factor, because what we've learned over the years, and again, we're working on that since 2019, that expertise and that experience in itself is a major asset. Apart from that, one of the learnings that you learn is, you have to think about it much more holistically. You cannot just focus on the technology. I think most people still think that to have a large language model is enough to create sustainable value. That is definitely not true. You need to think about much more than just the large language model. It is front and center, but there has to be more you have to think about. And that's what we're doing right now. We're thinking, our offering, the next model generation will be published soon, but we won't, for example, make available our models in isolation. They will be available as a broader package, because that is really what you need to realize value. We pay a lot of attention to sovereignty, and sovereignty not so much in the sense that it's geostrategically important. That is a different debate, an important debate, but we think much more about sovereignty in terms of, do companies have the freedom to actually operate it on their own, or do they give up freedoms because we force them on a chip, we force them on a hyperscaler? That's definitely not what we want to do. Because then in the end you give up freedom, and that's not what we want. So for that reason, we think about it much more holistically, and I also want to mention here, as we talk about startup ecosystem or ecosystem in general, I think the most promising combination is really to combine tech with domain expertise, and then make sure that the people, especially in-house, obviously, are trained to realize the value on their own, so that you don't get dependent on any one provider. But especially the tech and the domain expertise in combination is fundamental to realize value. And that is something, I've worked for Palantir for many years, and one at Palantir once said to me, it's funny that the Europeans never listen to what we don't say. And one of the things is our domain expertise. We should be really proud of what we have in Germany, and we should not just copycat, whatever is going on over there. So that domain expertise is here. We just have to leverage it, and that's definitely something that we're focusing on right now.
Absolutely. And then maybe talking about use cases that you have already enabled. Maybe Bosch and Aleph Alpha have already worked on something you can share with the audience. And then also thinking ahead about manufacturing and industry use cases. What do you see possible, maybe more from the Bosch and Bosch Group perspective as well?
So maybe as an addition to his comment, so it's really a difference to provide a prompt front end to consumer compared with a pure B2B business. Therefore, this network and data is so important. Yeah, and it well fits also to the financing round. We led the round together with Schwarz Group, but we were also very happy that SAP joined the room, as well as HP. And I hope there are other players to join, because this domain knowledge can only be achieved or accessed with partnerships. It's impossible to do that by one single company alone. For use cases in Bosch and other industries, it's really amazing. So we have done our first AI investments about 10, 12 years ago. It was really difficult to bring AI into the companies, and it took some years before we really have seen or established the successes of AI. But with Gen AI, it's totally different. Yeah, Gen AI is a topic maybe for the industries 2 years old, something, and suddenly we see hundreds of applications. We have started in Bosch, for example, we have started to cluster the applications. Now we have 20 different clusters, And we have a high three-digit number of projects running in these clusters doing applications in Gen AI field, and very different applications. So the easiest one, maybe one was also published recently with an OEM in North America. We have a chatbot as a service supporter. But we have applications in all fields, ask your data application, generative applications, software development applications. So really many, many different topics. And again, there is not a single person and not a single department within our company which is not directly or indirectly affected by Gen AI anyway, but also by Gen AI in the midterm. Therefore, this is so exciting for us because it will improve efficiencies and it will hopefully change the world to a better.
Absolutely. And since we are here at Startup Autobahn, where we focus a lot on cars, what do you think about autonomous driving technology? How will this be impacted from your point of view?
It's same. So autonomous driving and perception is just one application of large language models. So once a model is trained on specific perceptions, it can easily transfer to others. So also a portion of autonomous driving might go into a pivot using this technology. So therefore it's interesting, certainly for Bosch and for all the automotive industry players.
Absolutely. And then thinking about the ecosystem of AI in Europe, we often, and we mentioned already, that we need to mix a lot of elements, from the talent to the industry expertise that we have here in Germany, to deep pockets of investors. We do need help for those growth stages. But also when it comes to regulations, we need to make sure that we comply and we're in line with everything that Brussels would say comes next. So from your point of view, how do you see the ecosystem developing in Europe? And is there something missing that you'd like to also maybe urge people to pay more attention and work on in the next few years?
Well, I'm quite positively surprised by how it is developing. Yes, there are lots of things to criticize, but for once in a while we should not just criticize, but also mention the positive and the upside. Just to give you an example, what's currently happening at the EPI, the Innovation Park Artificial Intelligence in Heilbronn, I don't know if people are aware, but that's a joint initiative by the Land Baden-Württemberg and the Schwarz Group. They invest a lot of money in bringing all the players together, including universities, startups, players like us, to really leverage the potential and to make sure that we do not fall into the trap in which we fell too often in the past, that we have very, very good research, but we're not very good in monetizing it and commercializing it. That is something that we have to get better at, and I see a lot of promising initiatives. I mean, this today here is one of them. So this is definitely something that I want to highlight. On the other side, obviously, you're mentioning regulation. I don't think regulation is a negative thing. Sometimes, especially given Aleph Alpha's very prominent involvement in the EU AI Act, sometimes people think that we're opposed to regulation. I don't think so. I think regulation is a good thing if it provides a framework within you can then safely operate. The EU AI Act was very poorly done. It is a 1,000-page manifestum that leaves open many questions, and that leads to quite the opposite result. So there's still much to do, but that does not particularly lead to a situation where people say, you know what, I'm going to invest because I know exactly what can be done and what can't be done. And that's something that we would criticize. But the main thing behind that is still a mindset thing. So if you look at the US, for example, and I was still there when that happened, the US is much more pragmatic when it comes to, okay, there's a new technology, let's see how it works and how we can deal with it. The executive order of the White House was much more pragmatic, much more targeted, okay, what needs to be done now? to contain risks, but also to get used to it, to understand it, because we're much more afraid of things that we don't know. So it's important that we get used to it. You know, the UI Act is not something you're going to change overnight, as we all know.
So you ask for the ecosystem. So Bosch Ventures is investing in the US and China and in Europe. And to our mayor, our headquarters is in Stuttgart. And we have a very good, and we have also an office in Tel Aviv. And we have a very good overview of the ecosystems around the world. A good ecosystem needs seeder and feeder. Yeah? Seeder, people who are well educated, coming from good universities, willing to found a company. And you need good feeder, you need money to finance the companies and grow the companies. At the end, you need also an exit channel, you need M&A or an IPO. Yeah? And if all these ingredients are available, the ecosystem is good. The most money is still in the US, no doubt. We have an office in Silicon Valley as well as at the East Coast. Europe is on a very good way. Germany is on a good way. China is a different animal, maybe. The only thing what is lacking still a little bit in Germany is the late stage support. Yeah, if it comes to really large tickets, like in Aleph Alpha, which is 500 million, you will not find so many. If you go to the US, you see AI21, you see OpenAI, you see other companies. They are raising billions. And this is something which has to develop also in Europe even more. We are on a good way. However, I'm open, or we are happy to have a lot new investors also in Aleph Alpha in the next rounds. And maybe also some more from the US. Who knows?
Perfect. I think great way for us to end the panel. Thank you so much for your insights. Please help me thank Ian and Ingo.
Thank you.
Thank you.